So, on what grand stage did I play Freddy Krueger? Was it on Broadway, or was it in the movie somewhere? Let's dive into it, shall we? Alright guys, welcome back to this episode of Rolling with T-Bone. As we are rolling down the road on the Blue Moon, if you're new here, welcome in. My name's T-Bone. I shoot motorcycle related content and really any kind of content. If you're new here, I do ask that you take some time, go watch a couple, 2 or 3 of my videos, and make sure that I'm right for you, because I'm not so deluded that I believe I'm right for everyone. If you are old here, welcome back. You know what's going on. Like I said, as we are rolling down the road on Blue Moon, you read the title, so you know why you're here. Yes, I did play Freddy Krueger. In fact, I played Freddy Krueger for several years as a member of the East Pope Fire and Rescue Squad. Each year we did a haunted house for a fundraiser, and of course we did this at the end of September and all through the month of October. It was actually one of our biggest fundraisers of the year, but T-Bone got to play for several years straight to pretty good fanfare. Everybody seemed to enjoy my character, and everybody seemed to enjoy me scaring the crap out of them. I played the infamous Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street. Although Freddy Krueger was actually not my very first time as a character in the haunted house, a very, very young T-Bone was introduced into that world. 10, 11-year-old, maybe even 12, I don't remember. But very young, I was a Chucky from the movie Child's Play, the Child's Play series. So my family did not shy away from horror movies. Not only did they not shy away from horror movies, they encouraged it. Because we were a horror movie family, I guess. At least on my mom's side, my cousin Margie introduced me to a lot of my first horror movies. The Hills Have Eyes, which was Wes Craven's movies, Child's Play, Nightmare on Elm Street. But the haunted house had jumped around different location. The very first time I was in it, as the locals will remember, would be the old gym that was above the YMCA in Copper Hill, using the old gym that was above the courthouse. And it was there for a while. Then we used the old Copper Hill School that finally ended up getting condemned for a couple years. And then we landed at the Hoist House in Ducktown. And I had taken on the role of Freddy Krueger after we got up there, and when I was asked to do the role the first time, I had always been a fan of Nightmare on Elm Street. The original 1984 Nightmare on Elm Street is it's in my top 5 movies. And it's probably my number 1 in my horror movies. It's probably number 1. So I started prepping for the role, if you will. I started watching Robert Englund, who of course played Freddy Krueger. And I started noticing that in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger didn't have just a ton of dialogue. It was more one-liners. It played more off of his mannerisms, the way he moved, the way he chased, the way he would work with the glove on his hand. It wasn't so much about what he said as what he did. And that would work out great for me because I didn't know nothing about what I was doing. But I fell into the role, and I found a knack for it the first year. It took me a few days to get into the role. A fan of the character, but I wanted to be my best at it. I didn't care about trying to be the top man or get top anything. I just wanted to be good at the character. If they left out of there and they were laughing at anything, I didn't want it to be my character that they were laughing at, if that makes sense. But I had a lot of fun with it. Some of the things I kind of dialed in on, and I did this, when I say several years, guys, it was probably like 5 or 6 years straight that I did Freddy Krueger. And I knew it wasn't so much about the look, because I had some prosthetic appliances that I had made out of an old mask, an old Freddy mask, and I took some of the bigger burns that were nasty, and I could adhere them to my face with a little bit of fake blood to make them glisten and shine. It made a pretty cool sight to see. But it wasn't so much about the look, because I had the sweater, I had the hat, of course we had the, glove. So I made the appliances for my face. But what I dialed in on was I was always a fan of Robert Englund's voice. The voice that he gave Freddy Krueger. It had this kind of deep, kind of throaty growl to it, that when he would say a word, he would say, Nancy. It was like he was having a hard time getting the words not only to come out of his throat, but to come out of his mouth. If that makes sense. It was more of a growl than it was a word. And I had focused in on that, and I had gotten really good at mimicking his voice so much that everybody would say, geez, you sound just like Freddy Krueger. But, dear, don't you cut this way. I see you. But it was, it was one of those things where I knew that if I could get the voice down, then I could be a much more effective Freddy Krueger going forward. But like I said, now it was a lot of work with the fire department, because that was like I said, one of our biggest money makers during the year. But it was also one of them things that brought everybody together, even if it was only for that 6 to 8 week time period that we did the haunted house. But I can remember one time playing the character Michael Myers, which is a faceless, kind of emotionless character. So literally all you got to do is walk around, turn your head real fast, stare at somebody, and they would just completely freak out. As I grew into playing Freddy Krueger in the haunted house, I know this is going to sound bad, but I really dove into who he actually was. Meaning, I started doing my own research about Freddy Krueger. I dove into the movies. Me and R1 had went and bought all of the videos. And along about September every year, I would start watching the movies. To start getting my mind in, and everybody did. We would all, and it wasn't just those movies, because my second favorite movie set after Nightmare on Elm Street is absolutely Friday the 13th. There's no getting around it. I enjoyed Friday the 13th. Jason Voorhees, and of course, there'll be a big debate about that, but I enjoyed Kane Hodder's Jason Voorhees. But guys, I'll tell you, this haunted house, and I mean, once we got our location at the Hoy's house and we got into the swing of doing this thing, And we ran hard with it every single year for several years. We all tried to make sure that when it came that time of the year that our schedules were somewhat clear, because we were all pretty well much also into Monday Night Raw. We were into the Attitude Era, watching Steve Austin. So there was a few times on a Monday not everybody would show up to work in the haunted house. But and looking back on that now, I have to say to, my cousin Margie and Dale and, all the ones who would work planning this thing out, setting down, figuring out where the rooms are going to be, and then going up and doing the manual labor building it. That was such a thankless job. I look back on it now and I want to say it just exactly how much I appreciate what they did to make it fun for us to do. If they hadn't spent no time with it, then we wouldn't have had it to do. But it's just one of those things that it was a big part of my life there for a little while. Me and R1 had gotten married, and then she got pregnant with Cheyenne in 2000. And it really didn't start slowing down for me until Tashara was born. And I had pretty well much moved out of Tennessee at the time. We had moved back to Georgia. And, the wheels were running off of the thing. And everybody started getting tired. Everybody started getting burnt out, if that makes sense. All right, guys, as you can see, we have kind of flown forward a little bit. And we are at a building that was called the Hoist House. And this is where some of those great memories I was talking about came from, being in the haunted house that we did. Cool old building, guys. This is part of the Burra mine. It's now taken care of by the Burra Museum in Ducktown, Tennessee. If you're local here and you have never actually visited the museum, it's a great visit to do. A lot of history in our area here with the copper mines. But this building here, guys, to kind of give you the layout of the building, through this door was where the money would be taken up to get into the Hoist House. So you would walk up these steps, you would go through that door, and immediately turning right, you would go up a set of stairs that would lead you into that portion of the building, which is the big hall area. And of course, above us here upstairs was the concession stand. And I'll tell you something, guys, a lot of fun was had right here, running up and down this hill. I can't count the times or tell you how many times I had chased people down that hill screaming and hollering. Because should you show up at the end of the evening when we had slowed down, and of course we might have even been slow, you would have definitely got your money's worth. So you've got this building, now they've got it marked as the Boiler House. Constructed in 1901. You can pause the video here and read that. But this ramp wasn't here. So essentially what would happen is you would go up those stairs, you would walk through a hall that would lead you into a bookcase that turned, and you would end up in this hall here, this big hall area. And of course, this was all decked out with black plastic walls on the inside. And I set the pigeons off. And they've got two fake owls sitting up there that the pigeons are laughing at. I hope those are fake owls anyway. I piss the pigeons off, I'll get pooped on. Anyway, before I so rudely interrupted, inside there was where the magic would happen. So, at the end of the night, if you believed you were safe, chances were you weren't safe. Because I would come out of that side door there, and I would walk down this sidewalk. Of course, imagine cars being parked all through here, customers' cars, and they would go through the rooms inside the haunted house, and they would come out back here at the rear of the building. And this was kind of a decompression area. It was kept a little bigger so that you could stop and you could kind of catch your breath. So you would come out these doors, down these steps, and you believed you had reached safety. Until I came off of that walkway right there and met you right here, once again, face to face. And guys, when I say they got their money's worth, they got their money's worth, because it didn't always just happen right there like that. If we knew what vehicle they were driving and they were parked back here, I would be waiting for them at their car, and they would either run that way or that way. And I always preferred them to run that way, back down toward the front where everybody was at, so that I could go down. And this was two-part. The first part being, it gave me a chance to see how many people were waiting to get into the place. And it gave the people waiting a little bit of anticipation about what was yet to come. So, under my belt, in my time here at the Hoist House, as Freddy Krueger, I have got 2 asthma attacks, somebody caused a seizure. That wasn't me, but I have 2 asthma attacks, and I have 2 people peeing on themselves under my belt. Because when I tell you I poured it on, I poured it on. Because these kids coming through and people coming through thought they were safe. They thought that the guide, who was usually Margie or Rita Elrod, was going to take care of them and keep them relatively safe. Little did they know that they were the ones keying up the radio saying, hey, we've got a hot group. And if we got a live wire, or we got a heavy screamer, or God forbid you were a crier, there was no mercy. We did not let up. In fact, we had it turned to 10, and then we would turn it to 20 and pull the knob off. And we would make sure you were on the ground peeing and screaming to the best of our ability every time. And I would follow people down this road just hooping and hollering and chasing them and being Freddy Krueger with my arms flailing all over the place, which is a callback to the 1984 Nightmare on Elm Street, which, if you're going to watch the Rollin' with T-Bone presents Spooktober, you might want to go reacquaint yourself with that movie so you'll know what I'm talking about when I give the movie review. But like I said, 2-part. For one, I could see how many people were waiting to get in. And for the second part, I could already go ahead and give them a pre-scare. You know, a little bit of something before they even made it into the building. So I would come here. The entrance was there. There was a street light there, still there. And I would just stop right here. And then all of a sudden I would just turn and I would stare at the people on the steps and the people waiting to get through the door. That was very effective. And one of the other things that was really effective was that once they got to the top of those stairs that I told you they had to go up to enter the hall, well, there was a door there. And on the side of that door was a slit in the wood. And God help you if I was behind that door and I recognized who you were standing on the steps, because I would key up my fire department radio, which were always on private so we could communicate, and I would say your name, and then I wouldn't let up until you were in your car. So there it is, guys. Yes, your boy did play Freddy Krueger, and that was my time with the fire department, doing it here at the Hoist House. And I had a several year run playing Freddy, and toward the end everybody was kind of getting burnt out and they were getting wore out doing it. It was a lot of work. You would end up screaming, losing your voice, and the culture started to change in the mid 2000s. That's kind of when all this came to an end. But for our time, from it started in the 90s or the late 80s for the fire department till its run ended, it was a very important, special thing for us to be a part of. And I gotta tell you guys, my memories of this will always be this: that we were in the right time in history, and it was a group of people that had passion for fire rescue. I mean, I'm talking about people like Dale, Margie, Jessica, Josh, Hoyt Johnson, Lynn Geisler, Teresa Johnson, Hoyt's wife. A whole big eclectic group of people. Pete Elrod, Rita Elrod. I won't remember everybody. But it was a group of people that came together at that point in history and had enough passion that we just made it that special. And guys, that's always going to be my memories of this, is that it was just that special. No other way to put it. It's a time that I'll cherish. I've got a lot of memories tied up in this that I'll always cherish. A lot of fun, just random things happening, like if you were in there and the audio was running, if the CD stopped or the tape needed to be flipped, if the music stopped, that place, no matter how many people was in it, would get dead quiet. And Jessica was in the room before me, and one year she was dressed up as a killed bride, as a ghost bride. And I had heard this little girl say, clear as a bell, that I've got my boyfriend with me. Well, it got quiet again, and I said, I'm your boyfriend now. And I started laughing, and that little girl started screaming, and she screamed all the way out the back door. And Jessica came to me and she said, that was the greatest thing I've ever heard. She said that little girl was just tore up. But it was just those things that happened, guys, that kind of made what we were doing important. It kind of made what we were doing so much fun, and it was so special. It'll never be duplicated. What we did here, and it hurts to say that because there's no legacy to pass it on to. All of us, mostly who were there, are no longer with the fire department anymore in any big capacity. But what we did here can never be repeated. I don't think it'll ever be duplicated because, like I said, and I will say it again, it was just the perfect moment in time where a group of people who had passion and interest came together and made it just that special. But there it is, guys. I just wanted to share that. I was going to do this when I did the October of Motos and Mayhem series a couple years back, but I didn't actually cover the Nightmare on Elm Street series in that series. But in this series, I've already told you the lead-off movie will be the original Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. Not that crap that they did in 2010. The actual original 1984 Nightmare on Elm Street. If you're not a horror fan, everybody's heard of Freddy Krueger, even if you're not a horror fan. Somewhere in culture, you have seen him pop up. But, guys, thanks for coming with me on this journey. Going down memory lane, enjoying memory lane, enjoying what I did here and remembering it. Thanks for being here with me. And if you've made it this far, if you're in my premiere, this is Monday, August the 28th. And it's happy birthday to me. I turned 46 today. So thank you guys for being here with me to share not only this experience, but to share my birthday with me. But I'll tell you what, guys, that's kind of where I'm going to drop this video off and just leave it with you guys. Remember, guys, like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit that like button. If you are new here, like I said in the beginning, go back, watch a few of my videos, make sure I'm right for you. And if I am, consider subscribing and tell a friend about T-Bone. They might get a kick out of me too. But I tell you what, guys, I'm going to drop it off right here. This is Rolling with T-Bone. I'm T-Bone. And until the next time, guys, take care of yourselves and take care of each other.